Good morning for me, anyway, because I am on Pacific time. This is Peter with Certified Auto Consulting right here. Sorry, working with this new camera, trying to make it work. I am here in part with my company, Certified Auto Consulting, and also TorqueNews.com. If you want the latest updates on things of the hybrid nature, I do write articles for Torque News, and also beginning to publish videos as well for consumers. So what I want to talk to you guys about today is Prius batteries, Toyota Prius batteries specifically, and we're going to cover first, second, third generation. And we're going to talk about the chemistry. We're going to talk about some do-it-yourself stuff. I've got a lot of cool things planned for you guys. So if you haven't already, grab your popcorn, grab a seat or a notebook if you want to as well. And we're going to dive into hybrid battery 101 today to kind of clear up some misconceptions. Okay. So what I want to start off with today is I want to talk about nickel metal hydride. So with me, I brought some props because I like to do show and tell. And right here, this, if you have not Googled a Toyota Prius high voltage battery module, this is what you're looking at right here. So one of the first things that I want to do is dispel what's a module, what's a cell, what's a battery pack, what's a block, what are those things? So you guys know what Prius high voltage battery packs or the traction batteries, as they are known by their technical term, what they consist of. So this is a battery module, and within our battery module here we have individual cells, and you can kind of see they're denoted here by these separator plates. So each one of these is a cell, and each one of these cells is 1.2 volts of the nickel metal hydride chemistry. This particular module, okay, is a second generation Prius, and it has this silver coating on it, unlike what you would find in a first generation Prius, which does not have the silver coating. This silver coating is to help with heat dissipation for a little bit longer life. This is also slightly a different size than the first generation, but they do almost exactly the same thing. Okay, so this is a cell. The 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 cells in this module make up the module. Okay, so 1.2 volts per cell equals a total of 7.2 volts per module. When we take two modules and we put them into in conjunction with each other, we make what's called a block. These blocks then make up, there's 14 blocks that go into the traction battery, which make up the entire battery pack. Okay, so there are in Prius second generation and third generation and first generation, there are 28, sorry, not in first generation, second and third generation, there are 28 modules, so 14 blocks that make up that traction battery. Okay, so nickel metal hydride, if you don't know, is a battery chemistry that came about from its sibling, nickel cadmium, and nickel cadmium came from nickel iron. There's a really cool article out there on nickel iron batteries that were invented by Edison a long time ago. If you ever have a chance and you're digging around the internet, check it out. It's pretty awesome. Okay, but nickel cadmium batteries have been used in aviation for a long time. They're also used by the government in the military because of how robust they were to be able to take a charge, and their charge and discharge rate. They're really a robust battery. The problem, though, with nickel cadmium is that it suffered from this thing called memory wear. Just like old people get Alzheimer's, right? The batteries would have a similar problem over time, nickel cadmium, where they would develop this memory wear. They would lose the ability to hold the charge or the capacity of charge inside that battery. So it became really difficult for these batteries to have a long life. So there's this gentleman that came around, and he invented a new battery, which was called nickel metal hydride, right? And it revolutionized the way that batteries were looked at. And nickel metal hydride gave us a lot of really better options for the time period. Now, Prius was developed clear back. It started getting developed clear back in 1993. Okay, and I have an article on that. You can find it on Torque News that talks more about Prius and its development, and it's pretty neat. Okay, so clear back in 1993, nickel cadmium was really heavily used, and nickel metal hydride was still being developed and invented. So by the time that Prius rolled around in 1997 in Japan, nickel metal hydride was a new technology, and it was being put into Prius at that time. So by the year 2000, with first generation Prius that came into the United States, okay, it wasn't until the year 2000 that Prius came to the United States, we had the first iterations of nickel metal hydride batteries, and they were doing really great. They seem to be doing really well. And even a lot of first generation Prius that have loads and loads of miles on them are some of the Prius still have the original batteries in them because they were built pretty decent. But with second generation Prius, the batteries got better and performance got better, and Prius has improved performance and fuel economy wise in every iteration of Prius, every generation I should say. Okay. So, nickel metal hydride also, we didn't think this in the beginning, but it also suffers from that memory loss. And what I want to show you is kind of what happens. If we were to think of this module as a bucket, okay, this bucket right now has full capacity, okay? So, meaning that whenever we fill this thing with charge, it has the ability to have 100% state of charge, but as we take energy off of it, it begins to drain that charge. Okay, so if we were filling a bucket in a river, and we filled the bucket with river water, and we depleted the bucket with river water, and we filled it, and we depleted it, filled it, and depleted it, right? Well, there's little sediment in the river water that would start to fill up that bucket, and a very similar thing happens inside of our modules here. And so what happens is that capacity over time reduces, and this is where we start to see our trouble codes. Replace, the infamous P0A80 replace hybrid battery comes into Prius a lot. And it's because what we're seeing is we're seeing a reduced capacity inside the battery, so we can't hold as much charge, which means we can't adequately give the vehicle the power that it needs to function the way that it was designed. Okay, so people get in there and they're like, well, I guess I'll just replace the bad one. Okay, wrong answer. Do not do that. Okay, without doing some homework first. And the reason I say this is because you will spend more time trying to chase down bad modules than your time is worth. Well, all the DIY people are like, well, hey, I want to just do this myself, and that's the cheapest way that I can do it. That's great. If you have all the time in the world to just sit there and replace modules day in and day out and mess around with it, have at. But if you want something that is lasting, we're going to talk about that, okay? So what I want to talk about first before we do that is I want to talk about new modules versus used modules. And I and I hope that even if you're an aged person, that you don't take too much offense to this, but I like to use old people as a terminology. And I'm no spring chicken by any means, okay? But I like to use old people for a reason. And I also use young people for a reason too, okay? So if we think about miles on a car, it's like years on a person. Okay, the more miles, the more years, the more wear and tear, the less likely, the less likely it is that we're going to see some really good results out of that vehicle, and even with a person that's taken care of their body over time, you know, they're still young and spry and they can still do a lot of things, but they do show signs of wear, okay? Our vehicles are no different. But here's the thing: is when people, when they have a battery problem, okay, they go in and they replace one, and then they're like, oh, I just got a new one, I'm gonna put in there. Well, here's the thing with it. I want everybody to think about a soccer field, and on this soccer field we have a whole bunch of older people, okay, and they've all been playing, you know, soccer for quite a while, and they're a little tired, and they're older, you know, they're in their 70s or 80s, and excuse me, and then all of a sudden, what happens is we stick a couple of young, refreshed individuals out on the field. Well, what do you think the old people are going to do? They're going to try to keep up with those young people, and guess what? They're going to fall flat on their face because they're already tired, they can't keep up, they're just going to get exhausted and wear out. This is a similar thing that is happening inside your HV battery. When you plug in younger, fresher modules that have the ability to have more energy, you will make the battery pack unbalanced and it will not function as designed. So if you're going to play whack-a-mole, okay, here's the best way to play whack-a-mole, okay? First, determine which battery modules are bad. Okay, there's several ways you can do this. The Toyota dealer can do it for you. You can do it using the Dr. Prius app. Or you can just randomly guess, which is typically not the best way to do it. Okay, so if you haven't used the Dr. Prius app, it's actually quite good. And gives you a lot of information, and you can always get help from, I'm so sorry, I don't know why I'm yawning so much. You can always get help from us at Certified Auto Consulting, and you can find us on Facebook. You can find us on Twitter at The Hybrid Guy. You can ask questions to us on the Prius Owners Group as well. We're more than willing to help you guys out to try and figure out the best possible solution for your Prius. Okay, so that's one way you can do it. You can play whack-a-mole. Well, let's say that you have determined that cell block 9 on your Prius with 245,000 miles is bad. Okay, what do? Well, you have options. Okay, now let's go back to the thought of the old people and the new people. We do not want to go find modules that have low miles on them because they're younger, they're fresher, they're happy, and they're going to unbalance the battery pack. So what we need to do is find a place that sells modules that have been categorized in miles, and there is a place for this. There is a guy that I know, his name is Jeff Sloan, and he owns a company called Hybrid Automotive. I'm not selling anything here today, I'm just telling you what I know. Okay, let me make that quite clear. Well, Mr. Sloan has made a great business out of selling used, categorized, load-tested modules. So if your Prius happens to have cell block 9 that goes belly up, guess what? You hop onto Hybrid Automotive, you select the module that you need, and he ships them right to you. Bing! And then you have a module that is the same wear and tear as the ones that you're putting in there. This helps keep the balance of the pack even. Okay? So even if you don't have the charger and discharger system, which I will talk about in a minute, okay, you can still get a really good result. Right? So that is one way to do it. You want to make sure that you are using similar battery modules. Okay, now I want to talk about a couple things. I want to talk about delta state of charge, and then I'm going to talk about balancing the battery, and then we're going to move on to a couple other things. I'm going to show you my charger discharger system. I'm going to show you my nickel plating stuff as well, and a lot of DIY things here that you can do for yourself, and some things that you should consider investing in if you're wanting to get the most out of your Prius. Okay, so delta state of charge, delta SOC. Anytime you hear SOC and you are talking about high voltage batteries, that's state of charge. Delta state of charge is this: it is the relationship in which you have a amount of capacity available inside your battery pack. So for instance, if you plug into your Dr. Prius app and your Delta state of charge says 50 SOC, that means that the available capacity you have for use in that battery pack is only 50% of where it should be. Okay? So if it's 60%, you actually have 40%. If it's 80%, you only have 20%. So the higher the number, the less capacity you have to use inside your battery pack. Does that make sense? Okay, that's like probably the easiest way I could explain Delta state of charge. Balancing the battery. So I will show you my equipment here in a minute that I invested in, because I'm invested in giving my consumers, you guys out here, the best possible information on how to take care of your Prius. So balancing the battery. So if you're a first-time owner, let's say that the year is 2008, and you walk into the Toyota dealership and you've been reading all about this Prius thing and you really want one, and you didn't get a first generation because you weren't quite sure about them, but then you saw a whole bunch of them, and so finally 2008 rolls around, you've got some extra cash in your pocket for whatever reason, you're like, I'm going to buy a Prius. Well, the salesman is going to tell you that you need to change the oil and change the spark plugs and change the filters, and you don't have to do brakes as often, and you got to rotate the tires, and you know, it's less maintenance than a regular car, which it is. But you know what they're not going to tell you? They're not going to tell you that your battery needs maintenance too. And this is where I would say most Prius owners, they don't understand. Nobody knows this. Nobody really knows this because it's not told to you at the dealer. It's not something that, you know, any owners really know about, because Toyota wants you to buy a high voltage battery if your battery goes bad. That makes financial sense to them, right? It also makes sense to battery people who sell batteries to sell you another battery, and they're not going to tell you how to balance it either. Well, I'm here to tell you that your battery, just like everything else on your car, needs maintenance. Okay? So what this means is your battery, that memory wear, can be cleared out. Okay? So let's say that this is a bucket again, and that my hand is a scoop on a backhoe. Okay, if this bucket is partially filled with silt from the river, right, the current flowing in, and now I only have so much charge on here, I'm going to take that backhoe in, or my discharging system and my charging system, I'm going to start to scoop out that memory wear. Okay, so how does this work? We have a specific tool, okay, that does that for us, and what that is again, I'm not selling anything here, but Hybrid Automotive, Jeff Sloan and his team have come up with a prolonged system. This is the consumer grade system. They do have a professional system if you do this professionally, that you can buy along with this charging system here. Okay, and these two systems work in conjunction with each other to clear out the crud. One is a charger, one is a discharger. The discharger is really cool. What it does is it goes through and it discharges at 3 different voltages. In other words, it scoops down deeper into the memory of that nickel metal hydride module, and it scoops out as much dirt and junk as it possibly can. And then with the charger, okay, with this guy here, this fills that bucket all the way up. And when we do this, as we clear out this memory, we begin to restore what was lost. It's like giving an old person an energy drink in a way. Okay, and they get all excited and they're giddy and they're like, woo! And they go out and they play soccer and score some goals and stuff, okay? And here's the thing with this, is as your battery modules age, right, even us humans, we're susceptible to death. They do die eventually, okay? So what you can do is you help prolong, okay, the use of your high voltage battery. You do this process every 6 months, and you go out and you clear the memory out of it, you get it all nice and rejuvenated again, and it gives you more life. That is the benefit of having this stuff. It does cost a bit of coin, but here's the thing. If I'm going to get an extra 1 to maybe 5 years worth of use out of my high voltage battery, and this system costs $750 with me installing it, or a high voltage battery cost me $3,000 from the dealer, or $1,500 from a reman place before installation, I think for me, financially speaking, this equipment is a much better option. Okay, and for the most part, I've gone through the installation details that Hybrid Automotive has, and it's really very simple. It's easy to use, and just about anybody can do it. And even if you don't want to do it, you don't want to touch the high voltage stuff, which I get it, okay? There are installers that will do this stuff for you. Crazy. You can even get a hold of me at Certified, right? On Facebook, you can see me on Facebook. Get a hold of me. I'd be happy to help out where I can, okay? So that is definitely an option when doing that. Something else that I want to talk to you guys about is bus bars, okay? And what I have here is I have a homemade jar, and what this stuff is called, it's called nickel acetate. And I also have, one sec, oh, where's my, there it is, okay. I also have here with me some bus bars that I have taken the liberty to fix, okay? So when you disassemble your HV battery, you're going to have copper bus bars like this that have a bunch of corrosion on them. Well, all that corrosion creates creates resistance, and it can harm the way that your battery is being charged and discharged. Nickel plating, like I've done here to this bus bar after I've cleaned it in a vinegar solution. This is just distilled vinegar. Oh, that's in my little kid's jar there. Okay, I've cleaned these up in vinegar. I haven't scrubbed them yet with like some steel wool or a Scotch-Brite pad yet, but I put them in distilled vinegar, and it cleans off that corrosion. And at that point, if you clean them off, you scrub them down, you can put them back on and run them. Totally a good thing. What a lot of people are doing is they are doing this nickel plating, and they're doing it to help with corrosion resistance. Okay, cut down on that corrosion. We could get into electron flow for copper versus nickel, but we're not going to do that. Okay, just know if you don't really want to have to deal with corrosion, you have two options. Two options. You can nickel plate, which is acceptable, or you can clean and Scotch-Brite and then put dielectric grease on these. If you don't know what dielectric grease is, Google it. Totally an option to do. Okay, those are your two options for cleaning your bus bars. If you want to do at-home nickel plating, it is very simple to do. You need a old cell phone charger that charges at less than 1 amp. So this one is a 4.5 volt at 300 milliamps. And what I've done is I've soldered on some alligator clips here, okay? And then on Amazon, I bought nickel strips, which I put in to just regular old distilled vinegar, and then left it overnight. It changed green, which means it pulled nickel into my solution, okay? And when it did that, I can stick a copper bus bar in there, and I do that with my little hook here and my clothespin, and it goes down to the solution, and I hook up one side of the charger, and I have the other side on another nickel strip, and it will bond that nickel to that bus bar. And homemade nickel plating, guess what? It cost me 30 bucks because I had to buy 2 nickel strips that cost me $10 each. So that was my, honestly, I had the distilled vinegar, I had this pick out of my toolbox, I had the clothespin, you know, pretty much everything I had around the house. I did have to buy these alligator clips, but I'm into my homemade nickel plating solution for like 30 bucks, okay? Not a big deal. Super easy to do. Takes a couple days if you're pretty conscientious of it, if you're watching your solution and you're dipping them all the time. Okay. So guys, this really is Hybrid Battery Repair 101. This is designed to help you get from where you are now with a powertrain code, 0880 code, hybrid battery failure, or replace hybrid battery, something like that. You can rejuvenate this thing. Okay? There's life left in it. Go give those old people an energy drink. Give them a kick in the shorts. It's doable, and I'm telling you, if you're not comfortable with it, don't touch it. It's, you know, safety is number one. If you do not understand anything about cars or high voltage systems, please don't risk it. Okay, there's lots of people out there on YouTube that are like, oh, you just got to do this. Okay, they might have gotten lucky while they made that video. For heaven's sake, like, I'm not trying to say don't ever fix your things, because I'm a very big proponent of fixing, like, anything out there. Okay, but do make sure that you are being safe. You're not standing in water. You're wearing your high voltage gloves when you're you know, powering down the vehicle and things like that. So be careful what you're doing. If you want to know more, feel free to hit us up on the Prius Owners Club on Facebook. You can find me on Twitter at the hybrid guy. So that's the_hybrid_guy. You can also find me at Certified Auto Consulting on Facebook as well. I'm happy to answer Prius questions. I'm sure there will be plenty of them. Feel free to check out the links below that I have for torque news and anything else that I can give you. Thanks for watching. Have a great day. And hope to make some videos again real soon. And we'll see ya. Bye.